New 2015 2500 and 3500 GMC changed in 2015. We're going to show you how to mount the new Frontier truck gear front end replacement on the new truck. In order to do that, first there's two arms underneath on each side of the outside of the bumper that have to be removed or loosened. And as I get underneath there, the cameraman's going to go to the other side and show you how to get a picture of showing you how to do that. So as he goes on the other side, I'm going to get underneath the air ratchet. As he gets underneath there, there's two bolts. We're on the passenger side. There's two bolts right here to remove the outside support arm on the bumper. Okay, we're going to remove those two bolts. You get through removing those two. On the other end of the arm is one. You want to go ahead and loosen that. That helps it pivot so it doesn't hang up when you're taking it off the truck. Loosening up like that's enough. And we're going to go the other side and do the same thing. And then we'll go up above and show you how to go to the next step. As we're going to the other side, when you're sliding to the other side, you can go ahead and take this loose. I went ahead and pulled this loose. This is the harness. This truck doesn't have sensors, so it's not on there, but if you do, the lights, fog lights, and the sensors are on a wire harness that the rest of it will come off the bumper. I pulled it off that plastic shield. I flipped that little red flipper back to undo this, and the back of that little black plastic clip you need to push in, and that'll undo your harness then. So while you're sliding to the other side to get to the other bumper bracket, you can go ahead and do that as you're going to the other side. So we're going to do the other side now. Okay, I'm done underneath now. Now we're going to end up having to remove the chrome grill in order to get the chrome bumper off. So I've taken all the other 11 out of the 12 out. There's some little pegs that go in these little holes to remove. You need to remove this little plastic piece. I just left the last one in here to show you how to do it. Just get the screwdriver underneath there. That little thing lifts up like that, and then the rest of it pops out, just like that. There's 12 of them total. Take that, put it to the side, wherever you want to put it. I'm going to put that one right there for right now. Put that clip on there. Now, you need to remove, there's 4 10mm bolts right here that need to be removed. We're going to remove those. They're not real strong, so you don't have to have a big old ratchet or anything. If you got a little screwdriver, that'll help speed things up a little bit. Take those 4 guys out. And I say again, in order to get to the bumper bolts to remove the bumper, this is what you got to do. Now the chrome, it's not hard to take it off. But as of now, I'm going to get somebody to help me. I'm going to get James to help me here because I don't want to take a chance on hurting anything. So I'm going to get James over here to help me. We'll take the chrome grill out. Okay, to remove the chrome, lift these little pegs here. They need to lift up with their little catches, and then the chrome's going to come out. You can come down. It's got some more little clips in it. You're just going to bump it out. Just be careful, okay? Don't rush it. And then just take it and set it in a very safe place. I don't even want to know how much those grills cost. There's going to be some chrome, there's going to be some bolts, 2 on each side, that are going to undo the bumper. There's one bolt right here, and as my cameraman moves over to my other side, there's another bolt straight down. Let's get a light over here so you can see that thing. But you get a picture straight down here where they can get, there's a bolt straight down, which I'm going to put the thing on, and you can see where it is. That's the bolt that needs to come out down there. Okay? Okay. We're going to remove these bolts. And like I say again, there's 2 on each side. 18mm. You do need an extension to reach down there. Take those bolts loose, and James is going to finish removing the rest of the way. And I'm going to get the top one here. Those bolts are loose. After those bolts are loose, then you get a person on each side. You're going to pull this bumper straight off. We're going to go ahead and take this bumper over here. Set it down in a safe place. Here in a little bit we're going to show you how to remove the factory fog lights off of the bumper if it has a bumper, if it has fog lights. And now we're going to show you how to put the mounting brackets on. Now we're going to put the brackets on. We did the passenger side. If you do get confused, if the bracket goes around the outside of the frame, okay? It cups the outside of the frame. If you are wondering which bracket goes where, it bends to the outside and the holes are to the outside, but the passenger side's also got a little notch here just to help distinguish and explain which one goes on which side on there. So as you see, your tow hook does go back on. We are going to remove the tow hook to get the bracket on there. But this piece right here, after you took the bumper off, this hole and this hole is what held the chrome bumper on. This piece right here needs to come off. It's 415 millimeters. You're going to keep two of them because you're going to use those to replace or to mount this bracket onto right there. Right here, there's one 18 millimeter bolt that goes all the way through, and then there's going to be one more vertical one up underneath. We're going to go ahead and take those off. As like I said, you got to take the tow hook out in order to put the bracket on. But you will replace your tow hook, so don't worry about losing that. You won't. That off, and you are going to use that to put it back on. Okay, you remove the tow hook like that. Now again, you can see how this bracket here is cupped. This hole here, you're going to put that vertical, bottom vertical bolt back in, and this hole on the side right here will go back through there. Chewy's going to help me put this bracket up there. As he comes over there, we're going to put that bracket up there. He's going to kind of help hold it there. I'm going to put the tow hook back in place. Doesn't matter which way that bolt goes, you can do it either way. Doesn't have to go on there as it came off. My bottom vertical bolt. I'm going to get started there. I'm going to go ahead and take, while I got the 18 on there, I'm going to go ahead and tighten them up. Make sure that bracket's as far back as it'll go, because here in a minute you got them other bolts to put on there too. Maybe I'm just going to snug that guy and make sure. We're going to go ahead and back that off just a bit. We're going to put them all in. That way it's a little easier. That guy started. That one there, you end up having to use a ratchet on. Can't quite get to at the impact. Once you get them bolts in there, you can go ahead and tighten it. Again, make sure the bracket's as far back as it'll go. Okay. Again, our tow hook is back in place. Make sure, once you do get the brackets on, just one time, go back, do it again. Make sure all your bolts are tight. You don't want to have to worry about that later. Harder to get to later. It's always easier once this is all open. I do want to realize this bracket is 3/8 plate. It's bolted, cupped around the frame where you would pull with a chain or any other thing from. Very strong spot. Additional support up higher keeps the bracket from tilting. There is no way this bracket's going to go anywhere. This is a soundproof bracket. This bracket will be used on your extreme front end, our diamond plate front end, and what we call our Pro Series front end. You need to come to your chrome bumper. If your truck has fog lights, you need to go ahead and get the fog lights out. It's easier to take the fog lights out and get them into your new one before you even mount it. We're going to use a 15 or a 10 millimeter socket. There's some little ears that, like spline things that help hold that light in, but a 10 millimeter socket if you put on there, put around it and just push down the light a little bit. It'll help if you unplug it first, which I wasn't thinking. Push down the light a little bit just to push it out and take it off. You're going to do the same thing on 3 of them. It just helps press those little clips. We're going to do it to the other one. Stick your hand on the other side and then you can catch your light. You're going to reinstall this light. Make sure in your front end that you put the driver on driver and passenger on passenger. It's going to go in the same way. We have a new bracket out of metal that's going to go in. We need to remove this harness though that you're going to need to use. There's some little plug catches, whatever you want to call them, that holds it into the factory bumper. There's 8 15 millimeter bolts here that need to come out, and we're going to show you how to do that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, nope, 7, 8. You may not have to remove this if you can get your hands in there. Mine's a little too fat to get that cord out, but if you're going to have sensors in your bumper, then you're going to want to remove that plate because your sensors are behind that plate. This truck does not, again, as we stated. It just helps me get my hand back there to pull the little catches out. You got one going right there. Put that to the side. And you got one right there to that plastic. Got one right in the center you got to play with if you don't want to take a bunch of stuff loose. Which hopefully I can get my big hands in there. You can grab a screwdriver to get that out too, if it helps. There we go. Get a little. Or you can take that plastic off, it'll help speed it up a little bit. I'm being a little bit hard-headed here for the first time in my life. And then you can pull that harness out. This harness is going to go back in your new bumper, but I would put that in last because if you put it in right now, it's going to get in the way of your mounting brackets when we put it on there. And I'm going to show you now how to mount the light. We mounted the other side over here. You can see how it's got, we got 3/8 washers provided in the bolt kit. We put it back in there just like it came out the factory bumper into your new one. What you're going to do is come over here, put it up into the bracket, 3/8 washers. You're going to push it down until it snaps in. There's some little splines that are going to come out and catch around that washer as it did in the plastic in your factory bumper. Just like that. Again, when you unplug your lights, I didn't show you on the other one, when they're plugged in there, you're going to suppress that little black clip to unplug it, so you need to do that in your factory. Pretty simple. I say I'm not going to put this on until we've mounted the front end. That way it doesn't get in the way of your mounting brackets and all that. You don't have to fight anymore and you already have to. If you do not have sensors, you're going to have these little grommets that are going to go into the holes where the sensors will go. The trucks that do have sensors, there's a factory housing that sensor is going to come out of. The sensor is going to come out of the back of the factory housing, out of the chrome. Take that factory housing out of your chrome bumper and insert it front to back, just as it came out on the chrome, into your new one, and that sensor will go into your factory housing. So use the factory housing in your bumper if it has sensors. If it doesn't, again, we're going to put this on there. There's a little ring in there that plate fits around or into. just work it. You gotta almost do it from both sides. Get that slot in there. There we go. And then there's a plug that's going to plug that hole. Goes from the front to the back. It's going to slide in there just like that. So if you do not have sensors, you do use the grommet and the plug. If you've got sensors, take the factory housing out, put it in there, and the sensor goes back in your factory housing. Now we are going to, we're going to put the chrome. Chewy's going to grab the chrome over here. Grill, we've got to put the chrome grill back in. Chewy's going to grab one in. We're going to go down there. There you go, Chewy, right there. One thing, there's a little catch up here. You need to make sure it's lined up. But just put it back in there as it came off. Make sure everything's snapped in. How's that? We are going to go ahead and put our 4 bolts back in. 10 millimeters. We'll put them back in. And I'm not sure where I put that guy. So we're going to put them back in. Once you've tightened those down, make sure you tighten them down. Oh, I'm going to walk over here. I think I'll lift it over here. We've tightened the 10 millimeter bolts, and now you need to make sure you put your plastic back on. You're snug down again, and your 12 clips you're going to put back in. Down here, I'm going to go grab a couple guys to help us. We're going to lift this thing up on here and mount it. These 2 holes right here will be mounted to the 2 holes in the bracket. I'm sure you'll figure that out, but if there's any questions, there you be. This little angle iron right here, it's easier to show it now. When you put your harness back in after it's mounted, we're not going to do it again because like I said, it's easier to mount this thing, won't get in the way of your brackets. There's some holes right here. There's some zip ties. Take some zip ties or so, or wire, whatever you want to use. But zip ties work really good. And zip tie the harness up to there so it's not flopping around. Okay, so you can really secure it that way right there. Now we're going to get a couple guys and we're going to show you how to put this thing on. We didn't want to bore you with watching us hang this thing. We showed you where the bolts went. You know where the bolts went, where everything mounted, and everything was in it, fog light. You see now from the front side where the plugs are, because this one doesn't have sensors. Again, as we stated earlier, if you do have front sensors, you use the factory housing, which I believe they're silver. Anyhow, you'll see it. If you got sensors, you'll see it. We went ahead, once we got it up there, we hung it loosely, and what you do is you measure to make sure from side to side, make sure you measure in the same spot from each side to make sure you got the same measurement. Then what I always do is get straight back and get down right in the center, and you want to get down even and line up your top of your, what we call the loops, with the corners of your fender, and make sure it's the same from side to side. That's how you know whether it's up or down. It needs to go up or down from right to left. Once you've got that done, and again side to side like we showed, you need to make sure all bolts are tight on there. All bolts, even bracket bolts if you haven't gone over it. And you're going to be done with your install. You see how we put a jack underneath it? That helped too. That would take all the strain off the guys. You just had to kind of hold it on top of the jack because everything got leveled out. And make sure all your bolts are tight and your install's done. And I just hope you enjoy the Frontier truck here, new front end replacement.